AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. Well, as you know, we are moving into a new format for Chef AJ Live beginning January 1st, where we will be having guests who have regular shows like the first Monday, the first Tuesday, etc. 28 guests were selected, and we have a sneak peek, or should I say a sneak cheek of one of the shows. So starting next year, the last Thursday of every month, we are going to have vegan conversations with Robert Cheeke. We had a whole week in August called Cheek Week, which I suggest you watch. It's fabulous, where Robert Cheeke interviewed all kinds of elite vegan athletes, including Olympians. Well, during that week, we had an email from Richard Hubbard. Richard has been a guest on the show. He's an author. He's someone who has lost over 150 pounds on a plant-based diet, and he wanted to be on that week. Unfortunately, we had filled all the spots, and he said, but it's my dream to be interviewed by Robert Cheeke. Robert Cheeke, of course, you know, is the New York Times bestselling author of The Plant-Based Athlete. Well, here on Chef AJ Live, we like to make dreams come true. So please welcome Robert Cheeke, who is going to interview Richard Hubbard. Hey, Robert, how are you?
Chef AJ, thank you so much. I am fantastic. How are you?
I'm great. You know, just whenever I see you, I just get a smile on my face. You are just, I don't know what it is about you, but you just make people feel good.
It must be the bright light shining on my face. I don't know what it is. But thank you, Chef AJ. I appreciate that. And I am honored to be here with Richard Hubbard. And we're going to start this Vegan Conversations with Robert Cheeke a little bit early. It doesn't technically start till next month, but I wanted to start this time, and you said that is okay. So we are here for Vegan Conversations with Robert Cheeke, and I'm honored to be here with Richard Hubbard. Richard, welcome to the show.
Thank you, and I'm honored to be here as well.
Yeah, I love that you're wearing. Yeah, thank you. I love that you're wearing the Vegan Strong hoodie, and I am wearing a Vegan Beast Mode shirt, which I got from you years ago.
Yeah, I plan to sell that again.
Yeah, we're going to talk about your weight loss journey and all of that. I know some people know it, but we're going to get into that. But first, let's talk about us for a minute. We met years ago out in Massachusetts at a vegan festival. We met for the first time. We had lunch together in New York City earlier this year. I was hoping to see you in Atlantic City, didn't quite make it. And I might be seeing you, if it's on your radar, at the Vegan Health and Fitness Expo in Florida in April, which would be a fantastic place to see countless vegan athletes. So
make that happen. Yeah.
So let's talk about that for a minute. So how did we get on each other's radars way back in the day?
Yeah, that was back in 2016. That's when I first became 100% vegan, and it was because of my friend Robert Cheeke. I stumbled upon your website because I was actually, it turned out to be a blessing in disguise. I wanted to tighten my belly after all the weight loss. I always promised myself after 5 years of the weight loss that I would do a tummy tuck if it didn't work out. And I wanted to build muscle because I thought that would help, tighten the abs. Even though it didn't work out that way, and I did do the tummy tuck, fate somehow intervened, and I stumbled upon your website, and I became 100% vegan after buying your shredded book and the journal, especially because that was 13 weeks long. And after the 13 weeks, I never ever wanted to go back to my old ways.
Well, I appreciate that, Richard. And I actually didn't fully realize that until you started posting about it in recent years and blog posts about it. And then, communicated to me about that. And I didn't really recognize that at the time, back in 2016, 17, 18, or even when we met in Massachusetts for the first time many years ago. But it's always, as Chef AJ knows too, she's been doing this for a lot longer than me. It's one of the greatest things that we can hear as a longtime vegan advocate, activist, athlete, author, whatever, to be able to hear that. So thank you. And I'm so glad that book Shredded resonated with you. And I know you are an author as well, a plant-based journey to health from morbidly obese to plant-based athlete. Can you talk about that for a moment? Like what, obviously you have this incredible 150, 160 pound weight loss journey that you've been on. You follow I think primarily a whole food plant-based diet. to support that. And then you wrote a book. So
Right.
talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, the book came about because I get so many questions all the time. How did I do it? So many people want to do what I do, and they often say they can't, do it long term, or they tried so many failed diets. And I thought, because I primarily discuss my diet at the gym, and here I like to just work out, and it'd be nice to have a book to point them to instead of constantly delaying my workouts just to tell my story. I mean, I'm happy to do it, but I just thought it needs to be in a book format because, there's a lot of steps to it. It's not just, I became plant-based, this is the why I did it and how, and things people need to know before they just, start their journey.
And it's hard to get that entire conversation completed during a
Exactly.
workout. But
Yeah.
when you're wearing things like vegan beast mode, you're definitely going to bring people to you, or vegan strong, to approach you to ask about that.
Oh, exactly.
And I think that is one effective form of vegan advocacy as well, just simply wearing it on your sleeve, like literally wearing veganism on your sleeve.
I'm glad you brought that up because in 2016, when I started this journey, I was always, I don't want to say embarrassed, but I thought, being vegan was something to be almost ashamed of because nobody else around me was, and I wasn't used to it at the time. And then I saw your no meat, no problem shirt. And I thought, well, since this is a challenge, I want people to know about the challenge. So I started to wear your no meat, no problem shirt. And just as I suspected, there was a lot of questions. And I wanted people to see that what I was doing to see if there was better results after 13 weeks. And there was, because I was building way more muscle than before I ever did the vegan challenge. So after that, I've primarily wore vegan gear at the gym. I mean, once in a while, there's nothing clean, I'll wear something else, but usually it's some kind of vegan shirt.
Yeah,
so I wanted to get the word out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of us do that collectively, it starts to create kind of a wave, and people are like, what's this whole vegan fitness thing or vegan bodybuilding thing
Exactly.
or vegan athlete thing? And it does take off, as we've seen in recent years. There's just been an incredible growth there, but among professional athletes, amateur athletes, gym goers, fitness enthusiasts. I know because I'm out in the trenches, I see it all the time. I was just at the Olympia Expo in Las Vegas 2 weeks ago. The Super Bowl of bodybuilding, and tens of thousands of people there. And our Vegan Strong booth was so popular, we were out of products with hours left to go in the show. And that was being embraced by the mainstream fitness culture. And so I suspect you do get that at the gym. And you're out in Connecticut.
Yeah.
So you're, how vegan friendly is that? I've been there, of course, but not.
Yeah. It depends on where you go. I work in Fairfield County, so they're a lot more vegan friendly down there because that's where the mass of people is. But I live in Litchfield County, and it's more, I guess you could say, more omnivore friendly. I mean, people, I don't get put down for my diet. Maybe it's because of my massive weight loss, but they're not as on board with it as, say, Fairfield County, which is by New York.
Yeah, and that was so cool. I was out in New Jersey speaking in the summer, and you're in Connecticut, and we decided, hey, let's meet in New York City, one of the vegan hotspots of the entire world. And it was so cool. All we did was just like take a train in, and we just met at the same station and went off to go get some an all vegan sushi restaurant.
Yeah, Beyond Sushi.
Yeah, and it's just
one of my favorite spots in New York City.
Yeah, it must be really it must be nice to be that close to one of the all-time great vegan cities on the planet.
It is. And plus Fairfield County has some nice vegan spots as well, but not as nice as New York, but they're getting there.
Do you eat most of your meals? Do you make most of your meals, or eat them at home, or do you go out a lot? I
prepare a lot ahead of time. At work, they know how healthy I eat. Like if somebody has donuts, they'll say, "Oh, I know I'm not going to give it to you." They know enough not to ask me. I'm always bringing salads to work. I'll bring my oatmeal because I eat later on. I don't start eating until around noontime, so everybody else's lunch is my breakfast. I have the steel cut oats at work with the berries and chia seeds, flax seeds. I'll have my a huge salad around maybe 3 o'clock or so, 3:30. Steamed veggies at home, another big salad, berries. You eat a lot of fruit, apples, bananas, almond butter. I know Chef AJ avoids those kinds of foods, but they don't put weight on me. I guess because I'm so active that I don't really have to worry so much about the unsaturated fats.
Yeah, that's a big part of it, activity. And that's something that a lot of us are not really engaged in. I was actually going to ask you about that, about staying motivated during these winter months where it's colder outside and it gets dark earlier, and how to stay motivated. But before that, I want to just go back to what you were just talking about. It sounds like you're pretty well prepared. Like
I am.
you meal prep, so did you, I just want to go back for a moment. Did you, as you described yourself as morbidly obese, I think you said 350 pounds. Did you suffer from food addiction?
I did.
I suspect a lot of people do, even people who don't know that they do. Even if they don't have, maybe they're not at a level of morbidly obese, they are really, in a lot of ways, controlled by their food environment, and they may not even know it. They may not even know
Absolutely.
it. Creep up over time. So I just want to go back, because you seem to have a really dialed in approach. You've kept the weight off for years. You just rattled off a bunch of foods that you eat during the day, which sound completely reasonable and within Joel Furman's Andy score, and within Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen, and clearly very, very healthy foods.
Right.
How did you get to that point where that discipline becomes like second nature, when you used to be a food addict, 350 pounds, and about to be on medications and having a lot of concerns about diabetes and heart disease and scary things?
Well, back in, let's say 2010, around that time, before my weight loss journey, I was doing every failed diet and nothing was working. And I knew I was a food addict. And I think part of my problem was I was basically lazy. I didn't want to cook my own foods. It was much easier to go to McDonald's and get these huge amounts of fast food than it was to make salads. And I just I think that was the big part of it, was being lazy. It wasn't so much that I didn't like healthy foods. Maybe I just didn't know much about them back then. But even as a kid, I always did like veggies. I just didn't eat enough of them. My mom growing up, she did always have like a salad on the side, even though she was brought up to believe also that you need meat. So there was always meat on the table, but at least she had a salad. And so I credit her for that, for, at least I had some healthy foods. And there was fruit as well, like oranges and different fruits. So it wasn't all junk food, even though there was a lot. But I think as I became an adult, it's very tempting to turn to fast food, addictive. And even though I was healthy in college and walking everywhere and doing tons of exercise, it was a lot easier to go to KFC around the corner than it was to cook, because I was doing so much studying and I didn't have time to cook back then. Even though I don't really have time now, but I make the time now.
Yeah, Richard, that's a good point. Convenience is a huge part of this thing. Convenience, cost, taste, these seem to be the barriers to veganism. I want to ask you, aside from, you said you think maybe you were lazy, maybe you're being too hard on yourself, or maybe you were, maybe a lot of us are lazy, but what else did you learn about yourself during that weight loss journey? I mean, maybe I'll pose some questions here. There must have been times of doubt. Like, is this going to work? Okay. There must be, self-doubt. There must be times, what do other people think of me with this maybe obscure diet or bizarre diet or something that it's not mainstream yet. Right. How do people observe me or view me as I'm losing weight at maybe a rapid
pace? That's a very good question, because that was a powerful time for me, because I wasn't used to all this attention, and I wasn't comfortable with it, and people were really shocked with the amount of weight loss. I remember like when I was, I don't know, probably 50, 70 pounds down, and I would downplay the amount of weight loss because I didn't want people to think I was losing too much. I said, oh, it was only 20 pounds. But I mean, eventually when it's 150 pounds, you can't hide that kind of weight loss. So I had to own up to it. But eventually I got comfortable with it.
So you were a little bit uncomfortable. You tried to hide it a little bit. You had a little bit of maybe self-doubt. Did you ever question, like, will I stick with it, or should I stick with it? Or now that I've lost the weight, should I go back to eating the food?
I did it initially, but then I discovered I think it's because I did it gradually. I discovered that it wasn't hard. Like, I remember red meat was one of the first things I gave up. And I discovered, after a few days, I don't really miss it. So I think I think everybody's different, but me doing it gradually, I realized I didn't miss these things. It wasn't hard. So by the time I was down to the last process thing, whatever it was really easy to give up.
Yeah. I think, Richard, that's a really good point. I write about it in detail in a new book that I'm writing that honestly, I wish this weren't the case. Richard, I really wish it weren't, but it seems overwhelmingly the studies, the data, the evidence suggests that small, incremental, gradual steps are the way to get new habits to stick. I wish, because you know me as a kind of a longtime animal rights guy, I wish people would become vegan overnight, and partly maybe I'm biased. I have my own confirmation bias because that's how I did it back in 1995. I did it overnight after seeing footage of animal abuse and that kind of thing.
Right.
Animal testing, slaughterhouse footage, whatever. So my confirmation bias says, man, I wish people would just go vegan overnight, for the animals and all these other things.
Nice to work that way. Yeah.
Right. But that's not how it tends to work.
Right.
And then there's a high recidivism of people leaving veganism after only a short stint because maybe they didn't allow time to adapt or get accustomed to it or have their palate adjust to it or get their calorie intake right. Or
well, I have my theory about that too. I don't think they ever were truly vegan.
Right. I agree. But I also argue that you don't have to be morally or ethically vegan to have a significant impact on the reduction of animal suffering. I mean, take forks over knives, for example. Dietary approach has probably had a greater, more significant impact on reducing animal suffering than many, many animal rights organizations.
Oh, sure.
But so I'm glad you shared that because I have to become more and more open to the reality that small, incremental, gradual steps, kind of like the Kaizen way or the Kaizen method, or Atomic Habits method, these are the things that tend to stick over time.
But the thing is, I'm like all the other vegans you hear about that say that you wish you did it sooner. I mean, I wish you did it years before. Right.
But to sustain it for a long time, this approach that you took, and that, I mean, even my co-author, Matt Frazier, took that approach. My co-author of The Plant-Based Athlete, Matt, who runs No Meat Athlete and has done a phenomenal job with that. He took that gradual approach where it took him like 4 years to become vegan. I'm like, come on, man, like let's do it already. Right. Ironically, just like you, I'm flattered. I did not know this either. I did not know this, but we were on a vegan cruise together on a panel, and Matt announced to the audience of 200 or 300 people that he officially became 100% vegan after hearing me speak in Washington, D.C. Like you were inspired by Joel Fuhrman, then you read Shred It, and that helped to go all the way. I didn't know that, and I'm super grateful for it. But I just wanted to point that out, that many people do take these small incremental steps and they sustain it for a longer period of time, therefore having a more significant overall impact on reduction of animal suffering, a reduction of resources used in the production of food for our food system, and many other things, environmental factors, health, of course, health implications. I want to switch for a second. Danny Taylor, she was there when we first met, when you and I first met. She was from Vegan Proteins. Right. So she actually emailed me with a question for you. Great. She saw my newsletter talking about this interview coming up. Right. She's worked with a lot of weight loss clients. She's had weight loss story herself, being formerly 210 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
And now, and then becoming a fitness champion. She said, Richard, after so many years of keeping the weight off, what is it that keeps you motivated to keep training hard now? Like you've already achieved it. You've already written your book. You've already been on Chef AJ's show a number of times. You've already kind of made a name for yourself. Why keep going now?
You know what it is? Part of it, believe it or not, is my Apple Watch. I am very competitive with myself. I cannot go a day without getting at least 10,000 steps. It's the thing that keeps me moving. It reminds me to stand every hour. So believe it or not, it's this simple technology, maybe not so simple to some people, but it keeps me motivated. I just constantly compete with myself. I don't know how many days in a row, it's probably several years in a row that I actually missed getting 10,000 steps. It's a minimum. I mean, I go sometimes 20,000 steps a day, but I have to reach that magic number. This was ever since 2012. I have to keep moving because maybe in the back of my mind, I'm afraid to go back to my old ways. I think I did a post about that maybe 2 or 3 days ago on Christmas Day, actually. Yeah. The gyms are closed here. So I'm not going to just not do anything, even though it's a holiday. So I did some hiking around, and I actually walked by a McDonald's and took a picture of it, saying how years ago I would have did the same thing that this guy was doing. He's pulling up to the drive-through, and they weren't even open. He was trying to get his fix of fast food, and it just made me think, made me grateful for the fact that I'm able to keep going, because anybody could so easily slip back into old ways just by giving into certain temptations or getting lazy. Even like I mean, it's probably ridiculous to say I go back to my old ways by skipping a day, but in a way that keeps me going. That makes sense.
I appreciate you sharing that, Richard, because I think a lot of us have things in the back of our minds that, what if I go too many days in a row without doing the thing that has kept me in this kind of shape, or this kind of condition, or this kind of mental state, or this attitude, or this period of my life. And I think that probably is that little voice, that little character on our shoulder, is always kind of there. And peeks up every now and then and says, "Hey, remember why you did this,"
Exactly.
or a reminder of why to keep going, or this is a marathon, not a sprint, or you're not done yet. You're an example now for a lot of people. There's a lot of more diverse reasons to keep doing what you're
That's
doing.
the other reason too. I mean, people look to me for health. Being an example of health, and I just don't want to fail at that. Here I still I haven't taken any blood pressure meds. I mean, after over 10 years ago being threatened with a prescription, I filled it but never took it. And to know that I avoided pre-diabetes when diabetes runs in my family, that's a huge motivator right there, when practically everybody else in my family is on meds. And I'm proud to say I'm on nothing. I take a few supplements, but that feels really good to say that. And I intend to stay that way. I don't want to, be unable to move, I guess, years from now. Like my stepmom, she has a lot of breathing problems, and my dad, he was diagnosed with trying to think of the name of it. Giant cell arteritis. And these are inflammation issues, and they're, meat eaters. And I want to avoid these issues that I see in my family. Heart disease runs in my family. And so those are huge motivators.
And it's got to be pretty empowering to do things like that scenario you said. You're out getting your steps in, or out for a walk, and you see a McDonald's, and that like the prior version of you would not have been able to resist that. It was that addiction was too strong, the temptation was too strong, and it would overcome you. And how empowering it must be, even 6 years later, to to realize that you can override that maybe inherent desire that was built up over decades of your life,
Right.
through these habits, and say, you know what, that's not for me. You know,
Exactly.
that's
Exactly.
I've heard people say, people who are, oh, I don't know, maybe clinical psychologists, say that anyone who overcomes addiction, whether it's drug, alcohol, food, caffeine, whatever it is, it's just one of the most powerful things that you can witness. You know, as this is speaking again from an expert PhD
Right.
person, and I think it was somewhere around, you know, psychology, and to understand that that is so difficult to do, and that you're doing it. It just must feel personally rewarding, of course, from a health and wellness perspective of where you're at, but also psychologically empowering, that says, you know what, if I can do this, what else can I do? You know,
Yeah.
or what
Exactly.
can't I do?
Exactly. Yeah, it boosted my confidence big time.
Yeah.
Um, I actually like going against the grain now because you know, people aren't vegan around me. I like the fact that I'm doing things different and living a healthier life than people around me who don't understand it. You know, years ago I would shy away from that. You know, I thought you had to be with the crowd, go with what everybody else is doing. But you know, me, I prefer to be an ethical vegan, even if there's nobody around me who is. I just I don't care who knows it anymore. It's just for me, you know, who cares if I'm going against the grain where I live? It's just I'm getting results.
Yeah. And I think it's a powerful thing as well. It's a statement. It sometimes gives other people the confidence that they can do it too, if they can rise up against um, societal norms that we've been conditioned to throughout our lives. I mean, since we were born and bombarded with marketing and advertising of a really specific agenda as far as the way to eat, the way to live, the way to exploit others without acknowledging that exploitation by normalizing it. And I think that's a really significant thing, to be able to recognize that and kind of rationalize that, and understand that there's some of those underlying things like significant multinational corporate interest in having people eat a certain way, and saying, you know what, I'm going to do something different that's in my best interest, and I can be a example and role model to other people that would be in their best interest to maybe pick up some some of these tips from my example. So
Right.
I applaud you for doing that.
Well, as an example, I don't know if you've done this as well. You know, occasionally I'll go to the grocery store. I'll wear my Vegan Strong sweatshirt or something,
Yeah.
and it sparks a conversation. I encourage other people when they talk to me, you know, just give it a try. And I think I've converted some people, or at least opened their minds to try veganism just by this quiet activism.
Yeah. I've always kind of described it as being healthy, happy, and fit. I mean, that's just, you don't have to fit all of those things, but it's just the way that we look to others for inspiration, and the way that we decide who the role models are in our lives. We tend to look for certain characteristics and personality traits and behaviors. And I mean, that's the first thing, like, yeah, that Chef AJ said when I came on the show, like, Robert, you're always smiling, or whatever. That's what I want people to associate veganism with, is this. It's not, I'm
Yeah, we're not all
sacrificing.
angry. A lot
Yeah.
of people think we're all angry and
Or that we're missing
crazy.
out,
Yeah,
or that we're sacrificing the joys and pleasures of life to
exactly. Yeah,
live in ethical harmony with our, you know, moral decisions and worldviews. But I think, yeah, leading by example, encouraging people, being positive, all those types of things really do make a difference. It's a psychology in the way that it impacts people who want to see themselves in you and associate their own mood or their own attitude toward things based on how they can see other people interacting in the world around them through positivity, leading by example, being high energy, you know, healthy, fit, whatever. And so so I'm glad you're doing that. I want to ask you a couple of questions.
yep.
You know, 150-pound weight loss is a pretty significant thing. I've never done that. I don't know much about it, actually. Can you just talk about the contrast of what you ate then, just kind of not just dietary, but lifestyle habits? I mean, it sounds like you probably weren't as active.
Yeah.
I'm guessing calorie intake, it would have had to have been higher because that's how we add weight.
Oh yeah.
Through calorie surplus. So can you talk about what your diet was before that led to 350-pound body weight, and then specifically what switches you made or changes that led to 160-pound weight loss that you experience today?
Yep, sure. Well, part of my problem is I wouldn't call it a problem in the fact that I could have lived my life a different way, but I had a desk job. I'm a designer, website designer, graphic designer, and that requires a lot of sitting. And back then, I would never do any exercise. I mean, I'd go to the gym once in a while and get very winded just doing a slow walk on the treadmill if I could even do it. Maybe I'd do 10 minutes if I could, but I would never be breaking up a sweat. And so I was really doing no good. It was hardly any exercise at all. And I remember back in around 2011, I remember as I started my new job, and I was sitting all day, 8 hours. I don't think I got up once. I remember my legs were so stiff, they didn't even want to move. And it was a really scary feeling. It was almost like I was handicapped. It took a while for the blood to get going, I guess, and then I was able to move. But that was a lot of sitting, and I know I was doing a lot of damage to my body back then. And here I was eating all these bad foods. I remember eating Egg McMuffins before work, and I'd be going to Subway for lunch and getting what I thought was healthy, like a turkey sandwich or something, but obviously that wasn't good. Cheese and everything on it. And I didn't shy away from the chips and all this junk food and diet soda, like I was really going to lose weight drinking the diet soda. And I remember counting the calories. This was after I started my weight loss journey, and it was I think it was 8,000 to 10,000 calories. And
wow.
I don't know how I lived through that. My body must have been stronger than I realized back then, because that's taking a lot of abuse.
Yeah, and you weren't that active back then, even though you were just starting your weight loss journey. It's not like you were working out for hours a day, right?
No, definitely not. I mean, I'd be lucky to make the gym 2 times a week. And like I said, I wasn't working up a sweat when I was doing the treadmill. It was just like a kind of a stroll.
And Richard, let me just tell you, when I was at the peak of my bodybuilding and just trying to get as big as I possibly could, I mean, I was eating until I was stuffed, like literally gnawing on like my 7th Cliff Bar of the day at midnight, just trying to get the calories in. I struggled to hit 5,000 calories. And these are obviously all plant-based, all vegan calories, but I mean, it was, so I mean, 8 to 10, you were eating double what I was eating when I was trying my hardest. And I was also exercising 2 or more hours per day to burn a ton off, to create more room, to take in more food, to build muscle and achieve my bodybuilding goals. But that is an example of the calorie density influence of animal-based foods. It is so
absolutely.
Yeah. Chef AJ is an expert in that.
I love this way of eating, because
yeah,
I get to eat a ton of food, but I'm
Yeah.
not putting the calories in. I'm putting some calories in, but not 10,000.
right, exactly. You can have a monster bowl of antioxidant rich, vitamin mineral rich fruits that are mango and nectarine and apricot and apples and pears and bananas and citrus and blueberries, raspberries. I mean, it could be the best tasting thing. It could be, the volume could be so high, and the nutritional yield is incredibly significant, but the calories are low. And you can do the same with leafy green salad, but you can also do the same with potatoes. You can do the same with rice and beans and lentils. You can do the same with vegetable sushi or soups or wraps or all these other things. It's unbelievable the volume of food you can eat on a plant-based diet and still not gain weight if you're not consuming more than you're expending, which is how weight gain or weight loss works.
Yeah, you just brought back a memory for me when my dad first learned I was vegan, and he was visiting. He lives in Virginia. He happened to come up, and I remember him saying, here I thought you wouldn't be eating a lot of food. He was shocked by how much food I was able to put away.
Yeah.
Just it's healthy foods. People don't realize that you really can eat a ton of food if you do
Yeah.
it. Avoid the oils,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's why the calorie density is so important. Chef AJ talks about that. Jeff Novick talks about that. Nutrient density, which is the aggregate nutrient density index, Andy score that Dr. Joel Furman talks about. Those things are really, I think, quite important to even have a basic understanding about, because then you can create a meal plan for yourself that is robust, that is incredibly sufficient and adequate and high in volume and flavor and variety and all of those things, and still keep it within the realm of being able to maintain this weight loss.
Right.
So I'm glad you brought that up. I do want to ask because Crystal, who's tuned in live, has a question about how long this process took. Just like for me, I gained 100 pounds on a plant-based diet, right? That's part of my story where I gained 100 pounds, but it was from age 15 to age 39 or whatever. It was a long process. How long did it take you to lose the weight and for your blood pressure to go down?
Yeah. The first 6 months, my blood pressure came down. It was even before I reached that 150 goal. So I was probably down 50, 70 pounds, but it was the giving up. I think it was mostly giving up those bad foods, like the red meat and all those animal products. So I think that was the first to come down for health reasons, was the blood pressure. I reached 120 pounds down in December of that year. So January to December was 120 pounds.
Whoa.
So,
in what, 11 months? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
12 months?
Yeah. I mean, I was exercising like a maniac. I have friends who are able to do this weight loss without exercise, but I think the exercise really overdid it with the weight loss. I probably could have went a little slower, but
taking a little more Kaizen approach there, small incremental steps.
You know what it is? I
You went
didn't
for it.
realize that I had so much energy. I mean, it felt good to be able to move. So I think
Right.
I was actually enjoying the exercise, and that's why I was exercising so hard.
Right.
So yeah, it saved 11, 12 months for the first 120. And then gradually over the next few years, it got down to about 150 pounds. And then I'd say after going fully vegan, then there was another 10 pounds, so probably 160 pounds at that point.
So you weren't even fully vegan as all the weight was coming off. You were mostly like plant-centered,
I was plant-based, yeah.
Yeah.
Which was really primarily Dr. Furman's plan.
Yeah.
I got to give a shout out to him too, because he really changed me back in 2012.
Right.
I mean, I wasn't an ethical vegan back then, and I was still having minimal animal products back then, but he opened my eyes to all the fruits and veggies. So I credit his book, Eat to Live, and all of his other books too.
Well, and it's another example. Again, it's not my favorite reality, but it is reality, is that you can make tremendous progress without going all the way, even though I wish a lot of people would go 100% vegan, exclusively. No,
I wish I did it 2012. And when
right. But the fact is, by cutting out the majority of animal foods, I mean, imagine how many animals you spared too by not eating them or eating
I know. Exactly.
their byproducts. And not creating to supply and demand of having them to be in stores and restaurants that you used to shop for. That's significant. But the fact that you took those calories out of your diet, replaced them primarily with plants, and you had this amazing success, and then you eventually went 100% vegan and lost even more. Because it's, as people know, once you get that first initial, those first 50 pounds or first 100 pounds, whatever, it slows down, right?
Exactly.
Just like when I gained weight, I was trying to, as a from runner to bodybuilder, I gained 75 pounds or so in the first 5 or 7 years. And then it took me another 10 years to gain 25 more pounds.
Yeah. I think your body settles to where it wants to, basically.
Yeah. And obviously, acceleration and progress is always done dramatically early on at first, whether it's weight loss or weight gain or endurance training or whatever, your adaptation period is always most significant. early on. I want to ask a couple more questions that came in through the chat, and then I've got a bunch of my own that I want to try to squeeze in here. Do you ever worry, Richard, that you will, I don't want to say relapse, but like, fall back on the train or on the wagon, or fall off the wagon, whatever the expression is?
Yeah. Only with the exercise. That's why I said Christmas Day, I made sure to get my steps in. Not with the food. I'll never eat an animal product again. I mean, knowingly. Obviously, mistakes can happen if you're at a restaurant or something, but
Sure.
I will never knowingly eat something that's not vegan. That is because I'm an ethical vegan. So I think being an ethical vegan will stop me from ever relapsing.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. And there's a lot of philosophy and psychology and other things rooted in that makes it last for the long haul for people like you, me, Chef AJ, who've been doing it for a while.
I think once you see those videos of what happens to the animals, and once you have that knowledge in your head, you just don't want to be a part of that suffering anymore.
Especially when it's so easy not to.
Exactly.
It just takes, what is it, 30 days to retrain your palate, or retrain your habits, or retrain your lifestyle, of 30 days of doing something consistently, which is how we can turn into runners, or turn into writers, or turn into artists, or whatever, public speakers, something we had no business doing, no background and no skill in, but after 30 or 40 or 50 days, we adapt to it. And it's so easy. I'm in my 28th year now. I mean, Chef AJ has been doing it a lot longer than me. It's something that over time you naturally adapt to, and you have that philosophical, ethical reason as your foundation, and that helps keep you anchored to something that has deep-rooted meaning into it, and so it's much easier to stick with it.
Exactly.
I want to quickly answer Jesse's question. This is how altruistic we are, Richard. We're both wearing things that we don't even have available for sale. People are asking, where can I get the Vegan Strong hoodie? You can't. You can't get Vegan Strong hoodie. We don't have them anymore. They were on veganstrong.com, but we stopped selling them. And you don't have these available right now. Vegan Beast Mode.
They're coming soon, though.
But they're coming, maybe in the new year. Who knows? So Jesse, you can't get them now, but follow Richard Hubbard and follow veganstrong.com, and who knows what the future holds. I want to ask you something, Richard, that I think it's been kind of on my mind this whole conversation. I don't know if you're familiar with this expression. I admit I'm kind of naive to it. I just learned about it some months ago from my friends Leif and Anders from the Vegan Gym. I kind of want to get your reaction to it. It's the expression called choose your hard. And I wrote a few things down. Losing weight is hard. Being overweight is hard. Choose your hard.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Exercise and healthy eating is hard for those who don't do it, mind you. Feeling sick and tired is hard. Choose your hard.
Yep.
Goes on to, there's many other examples.
Right. I love that.
Marriage is hard. Divorce is hard. Choose your hard, right? We come to these difficult decisions. There's that popular expression, people decide to change when they get sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? When one pain surpasses another, right? Because people say it all the time. So that's why I kind of want to get your reaction. Exercise every day is hard, Richard. Or exercise and eating healthy and losing weight is hard. But is it harder or less hard than being overweight and what comes with that? Which I know there's a lot of stuff that comes with that, not just physical, but psychological and physiological and all these different things.
I'll tell you what my answer is to that, because somebody has actually asked me that a while ago. And my answer is, I think it's a lot harder to take medications every day and to constantly monitor diabetes and check the blood sugar and worrying about that, constantly checking your blood pressure and follow-up appointments with doctors and being nervous. Being nervous about what the numbers are going to be at the doctor's office and, what the doctor's going to say. I think those are a lot harder to me than exercising and eating right.
I agree. And I have to admit, I'm very lucky and fortunate, I guess. I haven't had any or many health scares, like significant ones. Right. Yes, I've been overweight from being injured and and not exercising for months on end. And I've, had some poor nutritional habits, even as a vegan. And that even had a elevated dietary cholesterol result for me, but I've had nothing serious, but still, even just me trying to imagine some of those scenarios or watching friends and family go through some of these things like obesity and diabetes and cancer, heart disease, or whatever, that are very, very closely linked to diet and lifestyle. It makes me say, man, Robert, I know it's hard to get your shoes on and get out the door and go out in the cold and go, commute to the gym and go do it. And I'd rather be in front of my computer and writing my book and addicted to social media and doing other things. But I still say that's easier than the alternative, which is what I see friends and family suffering through. And I don't want that for myself. I don't want that. So I'm glad you shared about, choosing your hard. And I had never heard that, at least not presented that way before. I've heard obviously the scenarios before of do this or do that and suffer the consequences of either. But I like the way, and I don't know who originally came up with that, but I just heard it from Leif and Anders, and it just made, it helps me, it
does, yeah.
Even making dietary decisions. Even as a longtime vegan, I still will have some poor dietary decisions, eat junk foods or processed foods. And I have to remind myself, Robert, choose your heart here.
I will say regarding the junk foods, I do avoid them when I can, but like if my boss will have some vegan snacks that she bought special for me, I'll eat them. And I remember one of my friends who's a vegan runner, he allows himself maybe one day a month to have maybe white flour or something, as long as it's not an everyday habit. So if it's vegan, maybe I'll allow myself a cheat once in a while if somebody went out of their way to get something that was vegan for me.
Sure.
But the important thing for me is to stay vegan.
I think it also helps normalize veganism. Like when someone brings you something to the office that is vegan, to reject it makes it, again, it paints this picture of vegan is so difficult, it's so fringe, it's so non-mainstream, and it may push other people away from it. I'm just not gonna, I would never go down that route. This guy can't even have a snack that is possible. There's a psychological impact there. And if our goal, for at least for you and I, is a net positive reduction in animal suffering, then it makes sense to have that vegan snack, even if it's not in your dietary plan. And partly you disciplined enough through habit changing that once a month is not going to be a problem, because the other 30 days or 29 days you're on it. I know we're down to 10 minutes or so for our hour-long show. I've got a few more questions here. Maybe we can power through them.
Sure.
I know you're involved in your community quite a bit. Because we've been in touch through that over the years. You create like plant-based Thanksgiving meals for people. You even ordered something from me like literally last week to offer as some incentives and prizes for people who are part of your challenges. Can you talk about some of the things that you do in your community to help support the plant-based diet?
The big thing, as you mentioned, is every Thanksgiving, instead of donating turkey, I see signs every year, that they're in big need of turkey, and there's no way I'm going to donate something like that. So I thought I'm going to turn this into, something positive. So every year I've been donating some vegan foods, and it's grown bigger and bigger each year. And what I do is set up a GoFundMe page now each Thanksgiving, and I buy a ton of produce and fruit and vegan pumpkin pies. I found a bakery that makes extremely healthy vegan pumpkin pie that doesn't even use oil, and I buy one for myself and 10 others for the vegan families. My goal is to feed a family of 4, or 10 families of 4. And in Fairfield County, there's actually a few families that are vegan that go to the shelter. So I've heard feedback that they're really appreciative that somebody's thinking of the vegans. But my reason for doing it was I was hoping also to convert some people into going plant-based or vegan by donating these foods, because my condition is they have to either try going plant-based or vegan when they pick up the meal. They have to agree to not have any animal products that day. Now, I can't prove that they'll do it, but that's my condition for them to get the food. And the pantries agreed to that, to get the food. So,
Well, that's great, Richard. And whether they go plant-based for a period of time or not, I think what's important in the moment is that meal that otherwise would have been a combination of a variety of animal-based foods,
right.
Even in the shelter or whatever environment, it's almost always likely going to be some form of animal protein or byproducts, and the fact that that meal for those 4 people or 40 people potentially is plant-based is still significant. And
right.
And I just think it's a great thing that you're doing. I just love seeing people do things for other people. I just really, that's just something as a, I guess, altruist, if you want to call me that, I enjoy seeing that in other people. And you're one of those people. I tend to find there's quite a few of them in the vegan movement that tend to be quite generous with their time and resources, and use their own resources, and for no reason for acknowledgement or recognition, but for the fact that they recognize a need and have the opportunity to help fill that void and help someone out and put smiles on faces. And I think that's fantastic. So thanks for doing that.
And I also, quickly,
yeah,
I also plan to do some coaching next year, because I want to, give back some more and make people realize how easy it is to become plant-based. And I've been wanting to do it for a while. I have a new website, plantbasedrich.com. And I have a friend, her name is Sherry. She's going to be doing some challenges with me. We're going to motivate some people to go vegan. We're hoping to start by January. If anybody's interested, just send us an email through the website. But that's going to launch soon. Our goal is to hopefully turn more people vegan, or at least plant-based, for the new year.
And what's the website again, in case someone can type it in the chat there?
Plantbasedrich.com.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to, it's always good to hear it again. Like, if you listen to enough radio commercials, they'll repeat it 3 or 4 times. Make sure you get it.
Right.
So, Richard, I also want to ask, like, what's your all-time favorite plant-based meal, and also your all-time favorite exercise right now? Like, what, for people who are just like, oh, I just don't want to do it. I don't want to eat healthy. I don't want to exercise. What does it for you? Like, what gets you excited about those things?
Let me start with the food. I don't know why, but breakfast is my favorite meal, and the oatmeal. I just love the berries and the nuts and everything I add to the top, and the chia seeds, flax seeds. I couldn't go a day without the oatmeal. That's my all-time favorite food.
Interesting.
As far as fruit, even as a kid, my favorite fruit was strawberries. I still love them to this day. And pumpkin pie. That's my favorite. I guess you could say junk food, if you want to call it junk food. It depends on how it's made. As far as exercise, I want to get more into running again. I had a knee injury last year. I'm slowly getting back into that.
Yeah.
I think running was my favorite exercise, but now I found I actually like the stair stepper, believe it or not, because that works up quite a sweat.
Yeah. Me too.
I can really feel that I'm working hard when I'm using the stair stepper. I find that I don't like the elliptical because it never seems to work up a sweat for me. And as far as strength training, I think arms are my favorite thing to do. I'm not crazy about leg exercises, especially with my knee, but,
well, Richard,
I do them.
I found it interesting you mentioned running, because, again, I've used this word throughout this interview. It must be kind of empowering as someone who was 350 pounds, who probably couldn't run at
No.
all at that point.
No.
It's interesting that you didn't pick like squats or deadlift or something that a lot of like, bigger people will gravitate towards. Like a 300-pound guy might gravitate towards, look how strong I am through squats and deadlift. They got all this mass to move, but no, you chose long distance running. And so I find that interesting. I'm guessing it's a little bit empowering because like you weren't able to do it.
Yeah, I can do it now.
They can do it.
That's the reason why. Yeah. Because years ago I couldn't do it. So I think it's very empowering, as you say, because if you can do something, then you want to do it.
Yeah. Well, Richard, I want to kind of wrap up here in the next, I don't know, maybe 90 seconds, or maybe we can go another minute or two. Do you have New Year's resolutions? Do you make them? Why or why not?
I don't bother with resolutions now. I mean, I've already reached my goals. I mean, it's not like I stopped having goals. Like I want to write another book sometime.
Yeah.
I still want to build more muscle. I want to get, back into running, maybe do a New York marathon. That's one of my dream goals. So I don't stop with goals, but you got to have goals. But the thing is, I don't believe in New Year's resolutions. They've never worked for me.
Well, you're not alone. I'm sure you know well as anyone that most New Year's resolutions come to an end sometime in mid-January. I mean, like
you
2.5
see that
months.
Jim, like the tons of people at the beginning of January, by the second week, they're all gone.
And you know what I heard recently? I never thought of this before. I heard it in a presentation by Dr. Robert Maurer when I was at T. Colin Campbell's wellness retreat just recently, and then I read it in his book as well, his Kaizen book, that most people make the same New Year's resolution 10 years in a row before they ultimately just give up and say that, so they'll have the same weight loss goal, or the same dietary change goal, or the same relationship goal for a decade of their life. And it just doesn't work out. And okay, I'm on to something new now. I found that you immediately said, yeah, I can see that. But it took me aback for a second. I was like taken aback, like, wow, I guess I didn't realize the stubbornnness that many of us have within us to try for 10 years, fail every year, and then say, okay, maybe now it's time. Now that I'm.
You know what it also made me think of? Why is there so many failed diet attempts? You would think that people would know more about plant-based diets now, which I think always work if you stick with it.
Yeah.
I can't think of anybody who would fail on this diet if they're compliant. And they could give up all these years of torture just by going whole food plant-based. It's mind-boggling that people are so resistant to it.
You know what they need to do, Richard? They need to choose their hard.
Yeah, so, exactly. Yeah.
So maybe that's what we can leave people with. Richard, this has been Vegan Conversations with Robert Cheeke. You're my first official guest as we kick this show off. Is there anything, you've already listed some websites and stuff, and obviously your name, Richard Hubbard, and your book is on Amazon, it's online, people can find it. Is there anything, we are just days away from the new year, that you can leave people with as some sort of, even whether they're doing New Year's resolutions or not, some sort of wisdom from your incredibly successful 160-pound weight loss? Something you'd like to leave with listeners today?
Yeah, if you have any medical conditions, any kind of problems that you want to see go away, if you, I mean, it's not just about weight loss, but weight loss is a big thing too. If there's anything you feel like you want to change in your life, anything negative, I'm willing to bet you that becoming whole food plant-based, or even just plant-based, will do you a huge amount of good. And I am willing to help people. Just reach out to me on my website, plantbasedrich.com. And I'm willing to help you. I have a friend is willing to help you. Her name is Sherry, and she'll be joining me as well doing this coaching. And our goal is to really help people. It's really not as hard as you think. I mean, it is hard at first, I got to be honest, but choose your hard. Do you want to continue with these medical conditions you might have? Do you want to see them get worse? Or do you want to see results? And you can see results by changing your diet to plant-based.
Well, Richard, this has been an enjoyable vegan conversation. I'm honored that you're my first guest. We've got a long history, and we've been able to influence and impact each other over the years. You've been incredibly generous supporting me over the years as one of my biggest supporters, really, of all time, with my entire vegan bodybuilding brand, and that's true. That's accurate, and I want to thank you personally for that. I want to wish you a happy new year and all the best with your coaching as well. And please let me know how I can help support that, and be happy to do so. And I want to
thank you too for everything you've done. Really, you've done so much for the vegan community. I mean, honestly, I'm sure you've turned thousands of people vegan, and you probably don't even realize it because maybe half the people didn't even reach out to you, but you've done a world of good.
Well, thank you, Richard, and I sincerely appreciate those kind words, and I thank you, and I do look forward to seeing you again soon. And it was a pleasure seeing you in New York City this year. And I also want to thank Chef AJ for giving me this opportunity. I'm one of the few people that has this new monthly show on Chef AJ's channel that she worked tirelessly to build over the years, including something like 1,300 consecutive episodes to build up an audience of 175,000 subscribers. That's, she chose her hard, and that was very difficult to do. But it created an opportunity for people like us to share in these conversations, Richard. And so I appreciate you coming on today and spending a little over an hour with us to have this conversation. So thank you.
Well, thank both of you. I mean, there were so many things I wanted to say, but I don't like to interrupt. But Robert, I know you can't see the chat, so I have to read this lovely comment from Sherry, who's watching live. I love Chef AJ. Then I met Robert through her, and I just popped into the Zoom. I'm vegan for 16 years, and Chef AJ's No Sofas is a way of life for me now. What I love about Robert is that you are a workout expert. I've been working out consistently for 40 years. It was 9 degrees and dark outside the other day, but I still went to the gym. I love the combination of food and exercise.
Well, thank you for sharing that, and thank you, Sherry. I appreciate those kind words, and I think those are good lessons for all of us. That it's difficult sometimes to stay motivated, to stay encouraged. I know it's cold where you are. It snowed all last night. We've got snow outside. I've got to figure out navigating my way to the gym today through the snow. But these things build up consistent habits, and they pay dividends over on. And we often will thank ourselves for doing what seems difficult now, which will then
exactly.
I found that fascinating, Rich, that you were when Robert talked about relapse, which, by the way, my word for relapse is snacksident, that you were more worried about letting go of the exercise.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. If I let that slide, then I'm afraid the weight would come back on. But the food, I love the food so much now that there's no way I'd ever go back. Plus, I'm an ethical vegan.
Right. Well, it's interesting when Robert said that people are making the same New Year's resolution, and it's usually to lose weight. And they've actually done surveys, and people, given the choice of being rich or thin, they would rather be thin. But Rich, you're rich and thin. Right. And I thought of a great name. Rich, if you write a book, you can write a cookbook, and you can call it Hubbard's Cupboard.
and have Richard Finn on there too somewhere.
Oh, boy, I sure enjoyed spending this hour. Thank you both.
Yeah, thank you, Chef AJ, and Happy New Year, everybody.
For everything. Yeah, Happy New Year, everybody.
And I'll see you next year for another vegan conversation with Robert Cheeke on the 4th Thursday of the month. And thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. If you like what you see, why not subscribe and maybe even hit the like button, and come back tomorrow when my guest is Dr. Douglas Stroessman. Now, he actually was the professor of Dr. Will B in medical school, and he's written a book about gut-brain disorders, things like IBS, from the patient's perspective. So if you got any tummy troubles, come back tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.